Hi guys, welcome back. In this part we'll be retrofitting an LCI boot lid and tail lights onto this 330i. So the plan is just to replace the boot lid and replace the tail lights. They should look a little bit nicer being the LED ones, all red without any white areas in them, and the design is ever so slightly nicer, so hopefully it should suit the car well. And of course it's going to get rid of those holes from where the race car spoiler used to be, by the looks of things. And to start with, what we need to do is we need to strip the wiring harness of the old boot lid. You need to undo all those clips, the little grey clips all the way around. You can use either a trim removal tool, or I just prefer to use a big flat screwdriver to remove them. It's just easier. Remove them, remove the wiring harness that's connected to all the electronics, so the number plate lights, the lock, the latch, the tail lights that are on the boot lid. Unclip everything, undo this bit here, slide the wiring harness out this way, unbolt this bolt completely, unbolt this bolt ever so slightly because that's a slot rather than a hole, and then you can just lift the old boot lid up, replace the new one, feed the wiring harness back through, and then you should be good to go. So let's do it. So once you've removed the little cover, that there, you can move on to removing the wiring harness, and the wiring harness is clipped on just here. It doesn't sit inside the boot lid, it just sits on it, just behind the cover. Remove the fir tree clips, then you've got one here going in from the inside, from the other side. You've got one here, fir tree clips, one there, and then the little clips that go into the tail lights connectors. Press it down, remove it, this one and this one, and then the little connector that goes to the latch, and then you've got the number plate light connectors, and they're a little bit of a pain to get to because they're very tight on there. So the best thing to do, I think, is to actually pop the tail lights out. So what you've got here on this side, you've got plastic teeth, and on this side you have a metal spring clip, and they're sort of in there like that. So what I did was I actually got to the clip from the inside, pressed down on it with a screwdriver like this, and then popped the tail light out. So basically press on this bit here. And then once these little number plate lights are out, you can disconnect them without leaving pieces of your fingers on the inside of your boot lid, because these bits here are very sharp. It's very cold right now outside, so you don't really have the best of feels in your hands, and trying to actually unclip the connectors is quite hazardous. Right, so I've disconnected the harness completely, pulled it out from here, there it is, just let it hang. Get an 11mm onto these bolts here, so undo these bolts completely, the lower ones, and the top ones, just loosen them, so you can slide the boot lid off, and now it's ready to come off. I can just lift it off and put the new one on, and just like that the new boot lid is on the hinges. So we'll fasten it down, we'll remove the old wiring harness, we'll have to get this trim off again just like we did with the old one, then we can bolt everything down, feed the wiring harness through, connect everything up, make sure everything aligns, everything works, and get onto coding. And with the old harness out of the way, the new one's been fed through, just went up this way, all the clips are on. You've got this connector for the tail light, that connector for the tail light, this here is for the latch, this wire here, one of them is for the number plate light, and the other one is for the actual release button. You've got the emergency release right here. This little piece is unique to the LCI boot lid. It's slightly different, so just make sure you're installing it correctly. It sort of clips on that way and then slides on, and then the wires go through this little slot here, just like that. And this is the final result with this little bracket clipped back on. The wires go through this little bit here and through this little bit here. Everything is nicely secured, fir tree clips are pushed in. And I just want to talk a little bit about the number plate light connectors. So the pre-LCI number plate light connectors look like this, and the LCI ones are of course different because they just are, and it's BMW. So luckily the wires, the colours on the wires is the same, so I just snipped the new LCI connectors from the LCI harness which came with the boot lid, and I transferred them across onto the car's existing wiring harness. You can solder the connections, but I didn't bother doing that. I never do. I just connected them as they were, twisted the wires together, isolated them individually, then taped them together with electrical tape. And here's the final result. So now we can connect the number plate lights, the new LED ones. They came with this LCI tailgate boot lid, and that's the wiring side of things almost finished. The only thing left to do is to sort out these connectors. So this is the car's original harness with the car's original plugs for the boot lid tail lights, and this is the LCI harness that came with the boot lid, and luckily the connections are the same. So these connectors will just plug into the LCI tail lights, but there's a problem. The order in which the wires are inserted into the connector is different. Luckily all the colours are the same, but it's just the order that's different. There are two ways you can actually get around this problem. If you're lazy and you have spare £50 or $70 or however much, you can buy an adapter harness from BMW. So basically what that will be is an intermediate bit of connectors and wire between this connector and the LCI light, and that will basically just rearrange the order in which this connector is pinned. Or what you could do is you could take this connector apart, look at the order in which the wires are on the LCI version, and repin it yourself with just using something like a little pick like this. So I'm going to go with the second option, and I'm going to repin the connector. Currently we have green red, yellow purple, brown, black blue, and what we need to have is black blue, brown, green red, yellow purple. So remove this safety clip here, and then you can see the little teeth on the actual pins themselves just here. So to pull them out, just apply pressure onto the little tooth just there, apply pressure just there, and then you can slide each individual wire out and then rearrange it how you want it to. And this is what it should look like once it's all done. LCI connector, existing pre-LCI harness, pinned the way it should be, safety clip inserted, and now onto the other side. Let's have a look. So here, that's the order of the wires, and on this one, no surprise, it's not the same, so this one needs repinning too. So let's do the same on this side, and the same story as on the other side. All done. So I'm fairly pleased with how this all turned out. Now let's get this cover back on, and then we could get onto the fun part of coding. But before that, we've still got to replace the actual taillights on the body. Right, so in order to get access to the nuts that hold the actual taillight in, you just got to remove this little cover here, and then you can get an 8mm socket onto these 3 nuts, which are located just there. Right. The taillight dimensions are actually the same on the back, so the LCI ones will just pop back on. So this is the pre-LCI one, this is LCI one, and then you can just pop this one out and put the other one back in. This is the old connector, and that's the new connectors which I got with the boot lid when I picked it up, just so I'm able to check the wiring order. And let's have a look whether it's the same. So that's the old one, that's the new one, and everything's the same apart from the middle wire, because it looks like on the LCI cars they've changed the colour of the middle wire, but I don't think they've changed the designation because all the other wires are the same. So via process of elimination, the yellow black is the same as grey purple, which is in the middle, because all the other wires are in the correct slots. So we won't need to repin the connectors for the actual taillights on the body, and it's the same on the other side. And of course the connectors are the same, so they will just plug into the LCI lights. And once we've done that, we'll go and code it. And there you go, final result. I think it looks somewhat better than it did before. All the lights work as they should. There's a lot less white and a little bit more definition with this added line which LCI cars have. LED number plate lights, all the electronics in the boot lid work, everything's secured, fastened, tightened, all the trims are back on. The only thing left to do is we've got to code the car to tell it that it's got LED lights, because at the moment the car's computer is telling the car that its rear tail lights are not working because the resistance on the LED bulbs is different from what it used to be before with the conventional bulbs. So let's get it coded and we can wrap it up for the day. Right, so this is what the car is thinking. It's thinking that none of its rear lights are working because the resistance in all the bulbs is different to what it used to be before. So in order to get rid of those error messages, what you need to do is you need to disable the check that the car does for the rear lights. And I generally use this bit here, Carly. You can plug it in, connect to the car, go into the light control module and just disable all those checks, and that should get rid of the error messages. I'm not going to go into how to actually use Carly and how to use the app and how to disable voltage monitoring, but there's loads of videos out there on actually how to do it on coding forums and on Facebook pages and on YouTube as well, so look it up if you want to know how to do it, but it's fairly straightforward. You basically log into the FRM module, the light control module, and then you go into voltage monitoring section where the module checks for all the lights whether they're working correctly, and you disable all the voltage monitoring for the rear lights, so indicators, fog lights, brake lights and tail lights. And once that's done, you reset the ignition, give the car a couple of minutes, switch it back on, and it should come back with this. All the lights are still going to be working as they should, it's just the car no longer thinks that they're faulty. So that's it, everything's done, everything's coded. I'm very happy with it, it looks better. There's no longer ugly holes in the actual boot lid, the tail lights look better, the car understands that it's got new tail lights and it's not looking for them, and everything is well. Hope you liked the video. Join me in the next episode. I've got quite a few things that have already turned up for the car. There are some suspension parts, there's some braking parts, there are some wheels, a few more interior bits, a few more exterior bits, so it should be quite fun. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.